Happy home service.
Hello and welcome to Modelled Ads. Today we're at the workbench to road test AK-Interactive Splittermuster or Splinter Pattern Uniform Colour Paint Set, available for £17.50 or less. The Splittermuster Uniform Colours paint set consists of 6 17ml dropper bottles of water-based acrylic paint for brush or airbrush. That's around £2.91 a pot. The 6 colours included are intended to enable the modeller to accurately paint the Heeres Splittermuster 4-colour camouflage pattern used by the Wehrmacht and the Fallschirmjäger throughout the Second World War. The set consists of Splittermuster base, green spots, brown spots, rain marks, light shade, shadow shade. Before we start, it's worth reminding ourselves what these colours are intended to represent. I wouldn't recommend that you take the names of the paints too literally. With reference to the venerable camouflage uniforms of the German Wehrmacht by Werner Palinx, you can see that the Splittermuster base is a close match to the grey-beige material of the Zeltbahn, the triangular tent that could be worn as camouflage rain poncho in the field. The shadow shade can be compared to the hard-edged brown zigzag patterns screen-printed over the base colour. Likewise, rain marks closely resembles the dark green of the linear splinter or rain pattern of the original. However, note the absence of a sufficiently bright medium green to represent the Heeres Splittermuster 31's characteristic polygons. The light shade provides an excellent foundation for the later Wehrmacht Sumpftarnmuster 43 marsh or swamp pattern camouflage, over which was printed a softer edged reversed pattern of medium green zigzags and reddish brown polygons that closely resemble the final 2 bottles of green and brown spots respectively. Authenticity aside, the relative value of these paints will reside in how closely they represent splitter or Sumpftarnmuster camouflage on your figures, particularly in 15mm, where colours benefit from being proportionately brighter to compensate for the reduction in scale. Like many others, I've tended to use a combination of Panzerace's Splinter Blotches 1 and 2, as well as Vallejo model colour green-grey or German camouflage beige when painting this or marsh pattern smocks and helmet covers. You can see from these colour swatches that there are subtle differences between AK's set and Panzerace's or Vallejo's ranges, with colours being generally richer and warmer. Again, note the absence of a suitably bright green from the set. So how does the paint go on in practice? Well, I started with the base and light shade on these old school Battlefront Panzer Grenadiers, which, if it's not too much of a contradiction in terms, I'm attempting to speed paint with a mixture of splinter and marsh pattern camo. Coverage wasn't great over the plastic soldier German field grey primer, with 2 to 3 coats required to provide the necessary opacity. On the plus side, the finish is smooth and matte. I mixed a little off-white into these base colours to add the initial highlights prior to painting the zigzag and polygon patterns. I've read a number of different guides on how to paint Splittermuster camo patterns, but by far the most relevant for figures in this scale is Chevalier de la Terre's, available from his excellent blog Crack de Chevalier. Key to not losing your mind over effectively painting this splinter pattern camouflage is to recognise that we aren't really painting actual splinter camouflage, but a simplified representation. With this in mind, I concentrate on painting the predominant zigzag pattern with a fine Winsor & Newton 000 Kolinsky sable brush, sharpening up the angles with either the base coat or colour of the polygons relevant to where the splinter or marsh pattern is required. The absence of a suitably bright green becomes immediately apparent, and I reverted to Panzerace's Splinter Blotches 1 to compensate accordingly. Groups of 2 to 3 lines were applied over some of the base colour of the helmet covers, but I found that the contoured surface of the smocks was too much for my patience. With equipment and webbing painted after the camouflage is finished, here's how the figures look prior to an ink wash. I normally dip my figures in Army Paint to strong tone, but have been increasingly dissatisfied with the limited control this method allows. Having recently discovered the joy of oils, I've been able to better apply and control a wash of burnt umber to shade figures quickly and easily without obscuring details. Here's how they turned out after the wash. So, in conclusion, do you need to buy this set? Well, yes, if you're in the market for painting this type of complicated camo and don't have access to the wider range of VMC or Panzerace's colours. It's a convenient collection that lets you convincingly recreate two common Wehrmacht camouflage patterns that's let down by the omission of an appropriately bright green. That said, the paint adheres well, covers adequately and looks right, even on small scale figures, and I'm pleased with the results I've been able to achieve, albeit at a pace slower than I had hoped for. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to lay down in a darkened room before having a go with the Waffen-SS paint set.